Good evening. I'm Melissa Ridgen. There are calls today for the Manitoba Government to immediately send trauma counselling to First Nations communities who have experienced abuse by hydro development. It comes after the release of a damning report this week documenting allegations of sexual abuse and racism at the hand of Manitoba hydro workers. As Dennis Ward reports, an independent investigative unit is also reviewing the material.
The atrocities, as they are called in the report, took place over 3 decades of hydro development in Manitoba's north. Homes were bulldozed, lands desecrated. The testimony that was given by members of Fox Lake Cree Nation in January of this year include allegations of racism, discrimination, beatings, sexual assaults, and wrongful arrests.
Unfortunately, the perpetrators, these abusers, they go off and leave the communities, and it's up to the communities to find healing for themselves. And then, they do that, and then these reports come out and rehash all of these old wounds.
The Manitoba Liberal Party is calling on the provincial government to send trauma counselling to the communities affected. The Native Women's Association of Canada is calling on Hydro and the RCMP to be held accountable. NWAC says there was a failure on the part of the RCMP to take the complaints of Indigenous women seriously. There are also major allegations against the force in the testimony. RCMP are accused of holding, quote, organized gangbangs. They would pick up Fox Lake women, take them to jail, and bring all of the hydro guys there to do what they wanted with these young women, according to testimony given earlier this year. NWAC says these allegations highlight the past and present connections between the energy industry, policing, and the ongoing epidemic of violence against Indigenous women. Although the incidents took place decades ago, there are concerns over RCMP being the ones to investigate. A spokesperson for Manitoba's Independent Investigations Unit says the IIU is reviewing materials and information, but no decision has been made yet as to whether the IIU will launch an investigation.
People need to be held accountable. People have to appreciate the impact that these man camps and these extractive industries have, not only on Mother Nature, but also on our women in our communities and in our nations.
In 2004, Fox Lake Cree Nation, Manitoba Hydro, and the province signed an $18.9 million settlement agreement to address the adverse effects of past hydro development in the area. Community is also a partner in the multi-billion-dollar Kiosk project currently under construction. Dennis Ward, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Joining me now for more on this is Hilda Anderson-Pierce. She is the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls Liaison for Manitoba Tsuut'ina Nation. Hi, Hilda. Thanks so much for being here. So the Clean Environment Commission report has documented multiple incidents of abuse dating back decades. What was most shocking to you in this report?
Actually, nothing was shocking to me in this report because Indigenous women and girls have been continuously violated in various energy projects, and they've been reporting it for decades. But what I think is so unfortunate is, why have their voices not been heard? Why does it take a commission or an inquiry to do a report to say, hey, this is true? What about the voices of Indigenous women and girls? Like, why is nobody listening to us?
I mean, through your work with Manitoba Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and through MKO, what are some of the other stories that you've heard about man camps like these? Not specific to hydro, but the other man camps that you've heard these stories from.
Well, I've heard like personal stories from survivors, and of course I'll maintain their confidentiality.
Right.
Some have tried to disclose and felt that they weren't supported or no one believed them, or just by how they were treated when they did try to report incidents, that they weren't supported. And if a woman has been sexually violated, and it's really critical on how she's treated within the first 24 hours of being violated, on how she will proceed. If she feels that she's not supported, then it's very difficult to move forward and report incidents, especially if you haven't been supported.
Right, and I mean, in many of these communities, they don't have the, or I'll ask you, do they have the programming? Do they have the places for these women to go to get this treatment that they need immediately following incidents like that?
I actually think that that's a very good question, because Indigenous women and girls and advocates and Indigenous organizations have clearly identified the needs and the resources for Indigenous women and girls who have experienced violence, but also who, for protection. And it seems like all these recommendations and asks are falling on deaf ears.
Is it possible that there are MMIW unsolved cases connected to these sort of camps, be it hydro, pipelines, logging, mining? Through your work, what do you think?
I think I would say yes, there definitely is a high probability of that. You know, there's definite linkages. You know, when our land is being violated in many circumstances, along with our land being violated, our women are being violated as well. And I know that the Manitoba Tsuut'ina Grand Chief Garrison Settee has made it clear that anybody who is going to be doing any type of resource development within the MKO territory will, you know, he will ensure that Indigenous women and girls, their lives and that they're safe, that they're protected with any future development that occurs in the MKO territory.
How widespread do you think these types of abuses are? I mean, a lot of people were shocked to hear these revelations coming out of Manitoba with regards to the hydro workers. How widespread do you think these types of abuses are in worker camps elsewhere in Canada?
I've been an advocate on the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, as well as an advocate on bringing awareness to the high levels of violence experienced by Indigenous women and girls. And I've met several of my, you know, fellow advocates across the country, and it's very prevalent in other camps that are taking place across the country with various types of development.
Do we need to have an inquiry into this as well, or what's the answer? What should the response be?
I don't think there needs to be an inquiry into this. There needs to be action.
I found something on the web about it.
That's just my story going off.
Okay.
I think there needs to be immediate action. Like, it's like we always need an inquiry, and while these inquiries are going on, our women and girls are continuously being violated or they're dying. Like, it's to the point where, you know, it's critical. We need action. We need governments to step up and adequately fund the protection of Indigenous women and girls. And when I say protection, I mean, like, you know, access to affordable housing, access to quality education, access to childcare, access to economic opportunities, you know, all these things that will strengthen them and protect them, and, you know, a secure future as well.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on this. I'm sure this isn't the last we'll be hearing about this.
Yeah, thank you so much.
A resident in the town of Kamsack is voicing her concerns after the community introduced a new bylaw against loitering and public nuisance. She believes it may be targeting Indigenous people. Here's CTV's Cole Davenport.
A new bylaw is drumming up controversy in the town of Kamsack. Titled the Loitering and Public Nuisance Bylaw, it was passed by Kamsack Town Council back in March, but only recently has become an issue. Residents like Curran Stonechild feel the bylaw may be taking aim at Indigenous people who spend time in the downtown area.
There's very specific things they talk about in there that hurts me on a different level of what they're just trying to say.
What's contained in the 4-page bylaw isn't unlike a typical public nuisance bylaw, covering loitering that blocks people from getting where they want to go and stopping people from acting aggressively towards passerby.
It affects the town. Like, they're just telling us they don't want nuisances around Kamsack area, the streets. That's what they're saying.
The town of Kamsack and the Yorkton Tribal Council are set to have a meeting about the bylaw on Friday, but the town says they won't be commenting on the controversy until after that meeting has wrapped up. Other residents say what the people are doing in town might be loitering on the surface, but most have a reason for being there.
They come down to do business like everybody else. Some of them got doctor's appointments and whatnot. Some got court appointments, so they, you know, we got to be in town to do all that.
A lot of our people come here because they don't have wheels to make it to the city or vehicles to make it to Yorkton or to get groceries. So, You know, they come here to Co-op and they come to all the other stores around here.
Phoebe Korlick owns a beauty parlor in downtown Kamsack. She says she's never had any real problems with loitering, but hopes once the issues are ironed out, it eventually can be beneficial for everyone.
Once it's enforced and everybody gets used to it, I think it's going to possibly bring more business to town.
Korlick also says she's already heard of it being enforced for everyone, not just one particular group.
Two old ladies were talking and they had to get moving along, like, you know, like on the street, so it's not geared towards anybody.
For now, the bylaw remains in effect as written, but many residents like Stonechild hope to see some changes following the meeting between the town and YTC on Friday. Cole Davenport, CTV News, Kamsack.
Time for us to take a quick break. We have lots more news, so stay with us. To the east coast, we've got 24 and sunny in St. John's, Fredericton 23 and sunny. To northern Quebec, Inukjuak 7 and some rain. Nain, it has 11 and some sunshine. Chibougamau 22 and rain. Saint Jovite 27, lots of sun, 28 in Montreal. London is in at 24 and sunshine, 26 in Toronto and sun, 26 in Peterborough as well. Kapuskasing, rain 26, Timmins 26 and some sunshine, 11 in sun in Churchill, Norway House 21 in sun, God's Lake 19 and sunshine. Winnipeg, mix of sun and cloud and 30, 29 in Dauphin, 29 in Brandon, sun for both of them. 31 and some smoke in Regina, 23 up in Saskatoon, 30 in Yorkton. Uranium City and Stony Rapids get rain, 13 in Uranium City, 11 and rainy in Stony Rapids. Welcome back. Two 15-year-old Indigenous girls from Groote Island in Australia have traveled halfway across the globe to Calgary. They're attending a women's police conference and to visit the Tsuut'ina Nation. APTN's Chris Stewart met up with them right after their 30-hour flight.
Chanel and Kalisha finally arrive at the Calgary International Airport. From their home in Groote Island in Northern Australia to Sydney, San Francisco, and finally, after more than 30 hours of travel, to Calgary.
Hi, we made it.
They're here because Senior Constable Deb Blackwell from the Northern Territory Police wanted to see more girls from Groote Island go to school. This visit to Canada was her way to encourage them and attend the International Association of Women Police Conference.
The ones that weren't attending at all were the girls, so that became my target group, 13 to 17. And I used the conference as an incentive, a carrot, if you wish, to entice the girls to go to school.
Her plan worked. Attendance of young girls went up. With funding from local donors and the Australian government, Chanel and Kalisha were selected just last month to go. This is their first time outside of Australia. The two got to sample burgers and fries at the airport in San Francisco and try out the moving walkway.
Kalisha.
I like it now. Like we're gonna have a little bit more fun in Canada. They said that we're gonna go out to the snow and we're gonna have that police conference. Yeah, from the fishing, and after that we're gonna stay here for like 10 days. After that, then we're gonna go back home.
The pair will be bearing their country's flag during the Parade of Nations at the police conference. Next week, they'll be meeting with citizens from the Tsuut'ina Nation just outside Calgary to have a cultural exchange.
Tsuut'ina community, we'll be doing the conference after the closing ceremony. We'll be having a bit of a quiet evening, and then the next day having a tour of that community, immersing the girls, linking the girls in with that community.
Are you looking forward to that?
Yes.
Yeah. What can you teach them?
Speak our language.
And the Tsuut'ina community is looking forward to learning from them too. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Calgary.
We need to take another break, but first, here's the rest of tomorrow's weather. To northern Alberta, we've got rain in high level in 14 and rain in Fort Chip as well. 17 and sunny in Edmonton, 20 and sunny in Calgary. 18 and rain in Campbell River, 19 and rain in Victoria and Vancouver. Dace Lake, 14 and rain. Fort Nelson, rain and 18, but hot and sunny in Fort St. John, 26 there. Old Crow, 13, cloud, rain in Dawson City, and 13, Whitehorse, rain and 14. Lots of cloud in the Northwest Territories, 15 in Yellowknife. Tuck is in at sunshine and 11. Paulatuck, 12 with a mix of sun and clouds. 3 in Cambridge Bay. 10 and sunny in Baker Lake, 11 and sunny in Whale Cove. Arctic Bay, mostly sunshine and 3. Clyde River, 5 with a mix of sun and cloud, and Iqaluit, cloudy with 8 degrees. It could take up to another 10 years before the Maori in New Zealand settle their historic treaty claims with the Crown, worth some $100 million. We have more on this from Maori TV.
They breathe them tough in Portuguese. A setback means get back up and carry on.
Their aspiration was looking forward, not going back. We've been back, but we want to come out of there and look forward.
The Whakatohea Pre-Settlement Claims Trust and the Whakatohea Māori Trust Board have the task of bringing health, wealth and well-being to the iwi. But right now, the iwi is divided.
Well, I want to see Whakatohea united, which is only a dream, but to see Whakatohea united and move forward with aspirations of building a future. What we're doing now is actually trying to lay a firm foundation for them to move forward. Yeah.
Whakatohea was running for touch. It had a $100 million agreement in principle with the Crown and hopes of settlement by this Christmas. But the plan hit an obstacle in April when a Waitangi Tribunal mandate inquiry recommended Whakatohea's negotiations be put on hold. The tribunal accepted claims by some Whakatohea that the mandate was flawed, and in accepting the mandate, the Crown had breached the treaty.
We were disappointed about their recommendations. However, it is how it is, and it's a process that we need to go through.
The tribunal recommended Whakatohea vote hapu by hapu on what should happen next. Arihia Tuoro is project manager for the Whakatohea Pre-Settlement Trust. She's organising the voting process.
Vote is just testing the pulse of the people. They approved the mandate in 2016, but as the tribunal said, let's just go back out there and see if we've still got that support to carry on forward.
The questions to be voted on are: do you support the Whakatohea Pre-Settlement Claims Trust continuing to reach a negotiated settlement with the Crown? If the answer is no, do you want the mandate process to be rerun from the start? Or do you want a full Waitangi Tribunal inquiry into the historical grievances of Whakatohea?
I would like everybody to be accountable, and this is your future that you're voting on. Vote with your heart, vote with your wairua. So the future is all in your hands.
In 2016, Whakatohea voted 91% in favour of the mandate, but voter turnout was only 23%. Do you think that more will vote, and could that change the vote?
There'll be more voting, but yeah, I don't think it'll change. I don't think it'll change. It might end up, instead of 91.6%, it might end up 40-60, but still that is a good result.
But even the vote on how to move forward could be in jeopardy. The application for a judicial review challenges the tribunal's recommendation for a vote. It claims it's outside its jurisdiction and further breaches the Treaty of Waitangi.
If the judicial review is granted, I would imagine that would mean a halt to the vote, which is just yet another delay.
It could also mean dropping the ball on the $100 million settlement offer because of lengthy delays.
If the mandate is not endorsed, we are in danger also of losing what is an amazing offer.
Part of that offer is 5,000 hectares of sea space for Whakatohia's burgeoning mussel farm.
The 3,800 hectares that we've got out there at the moment, it is 9.5 kilometres long. Now you equate that to 5,000 hectares, well, I would say it'd be almost double the size.
For 15 years, mussels have been the great green-lipped hope for the future of Opotiki. It's coming up to the third harvest and it's expected to be the best yet. But all is not quite as rosy as expected. In May, the government turned down funding to develop Opotiki's harbour and wharf.
Aro atau ki atu ke whakatohea. Ko te hiahia o whakatohea, mā roto I te whakatūnga o te wāpū ka hiko ai te wairua o te taone. Pena oti, te whakaiti, te utu mo te rā wāpū, te rā pē ka tiruhi anō.
It is critical that we get the harbour. Without the harbour, we will only be able to develop a fraction of the water space that we have got.
The wharf redevelopment will provide a place for mussel boats to tie up and bring their tons of mussels ashore for processing. But right now, they can't berth here and can't get into the harbour.
Over the last 10 years, 15 years, Whakatohea was concentrating on developing the mussel farm. And we left the development of the harbour to the county council. This time, we will be a major player. Perhaps we might even lead that process because it is so vital for us.
So it's back to the drawing board for Whakatohea. They met early this month with a government-recommended engineer to assist with a revised plan.
So we'll have to develop an industrial zone somewhere, either here or on this side.
That's for a planned mussel processing plant that could provide up to 300 jobs in a town that desperately needs them. Whakatohea has taken a couple of hits to its plans, but they're used to playing the long game. After all, they've been going down the treaty settlement path since 1989, when the first claim was lodged with the Waitangi Tribunal. The current delay is just another step in an already long process. The applicant for the judicial review declined to comment, but it's clear Whakatohea has many bridges to mend.
We all lost people. We all lost our tipuna, one way or another. We all lost our land. We all suffered together. So let's mend together. I think in completing the process itself will be the first step to healing.
Ko te kai hoki I Waioa. To be the food bowl that feeds the world is the Whakatohea Māori Trust Board's vision. Despite setbacks, hopes remain for a future as sweet as the Opotiki mussels.
Mussels. Thanks for tuning in to APTN National News. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Good night.